All right. So good morning, everyone. Before we start and go ahead with the rest of the program, shall we chant Namo Tassa to determine the Ajivatama, the seal of the day? Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami, Saranagamenang sampunnang Panati pata virmani sikkhapadang samadhiyami, Adinnādāna virmani sikkhapadang samadhiyami, Kāmesu micchāchāra virmani sikkhapadang samadhiyami, Musāvādā virmani sikkhapadang samadhiyami, Visunāvācā virmani sikkhapadang samadhiyami, Parusāvācā virmani sikkhapadang samadhiyami, Sampappalāpā virmani sikkhapadang samadhiyami, Micchā ājīva virmani sikkhapadang samadhiyami, Tisaranena sanding panchasilang dhammang sadhukang surakkitang katva appamādena sampādite. So in the proceedings for today, the focus is truly going to be on establishing the grounds of samadhi. So then the question is going to arise, how do we come into a position of samadhi? Now, I do know that some of you are Buddhist. I do know that some of you have meditated together with me before. And I do know that some of you are not Buddhist. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Because the gift the skill of samadhi is something that can be acquired by anyone, regardless of their faith or belief. It is the mind's ability to stabilize itself upon a state of mind at any given time of your choosing. A position of samadhi is a very unique and a very precious mindset, which gains strength in the mind when nurtured and nourished. A consciousness that would be related to a samadhi is a position of mind where there are three specific roots which operate, which is the root of alobha, the root of adosa, and the root of amoha. The root of alobha is about giving, not only in the way that we might assume giving charitably, not really, but the essence behind that charity. The need within oneself, or the want within oneself to care, to take pleasure in someone else's well-being. That sort of a giving. This giving can be understood in many different ways, but the essence behind it is thinking of another. In another way, to not operate from the ego center of the mind and to operate in a way of care and compassion towards the world that we live in. Adosa, to conduct oneself with metta, with loving kindness. And this loving kindness, these are filters of mind. It is not to say that everything, or it is not in any way to assume that the world, we must brainwash ourselves to bring upon this sense of loving kindness in our mind. But this is truly in understanding the reality of you and myself. In a way that we would now be able to truly connect the reality of beings who live in this world, connect to the reality of every living creature in this world. And we know that we are by nature, we are not perfect. We know that by nature we are flawed. That flaw itself is nature. But then when we assume ourselves, or when we use the word flaw, are we comparing ourselves, or are we comparing our life from a position of perfection? If so, what is the perfection that we see? And what is that perfection that we compare it with? Which is truly make-believe. Nothing is truly in that essence of perfection. Seeing this reality in terms of anicca, dukkha, anatma is what we come into from that state of mind. Now, this is in no way pessimistic in any way. Pessimism, optimism comes about when we hold as foundation within our mind a comparative object, something a measuring stick that we would usually hold up to compare this A and B. When we come into a state of awareness and mindfulness, what we then would compare is we don't compare. We see, we experience, and we are able to accept things as we are, as we do, as we experience. It is into this state that we try to come in through our samadhi, through the practice. Now, in the essence of samadhi, why is it now many of you have practiced meditation for many, many years, right? But we do come into positions where we have trouble with samadhi. We have trouble with maintaining samadhi. We have trouble sort of motivating ourselves to live and abide by a mentality which we would know or recognize as a samadhi state of mind. One particular reason that I have recognized in my own practice and in teaching and working with other people is that for a samadhi state of mind to arise, samadhi is the ability of having one-pointedness focused upon an object at any given time. To arrive into this state, the mind needs to arrive at a position where the object is clear. Meaning, if we are observing the breath, and we know we have observed the breath before, if we are observing the breath, is the breath a clear object? This means questions like, where should I observe the breath? How should I observe the breath? What should I observe within the breath? These questions need to be answered in order for that clarity of object to arise. That clarity of object to arise. The nature of the mind with amoha, or the opposite of amoha, is the transpiring of delusion and the essence of delusion which arises in our mind. Delusion operates in a way where it creates a doubt with regards to anything that is seen, heard, smelled, tasted, or felt. It creates a sense of delusion in our mind, a need to not discern, a need not to go into it. We rather live in that position of delusion because it almost happens in a way that we don't even know or recognize. Discernment in the practice, which we know as the word prajna, I don't like using the word wisdom because wisdom, the word is very, it's not active, you see. It's like a noun. When you say discerning is a process that is working all the time. Everything that is taken in is discerned. That is a position of prajna, because prajna is a very powerful three-rooted alobha, adosa, amoha chitta. A three-rooted chitta is never stagnant in nature. It always cultivates, it always develops, it always changes for the better. So anything that you would hear, smell, taste, or feel through the aspect of discernment is understood better, is understood with clarity. And it helps in the further cultivation of a mind that is wholesome, pure, and kind. Discernment, the attitude of a mind which operates with discernment, is where now the way that you would operate with whatever senses, friends, family, and all of these instances that we would have to live by is lived and experienced in a way that it now helps in your journey towards happiness, be it nirvana or just the plain simple reason of having or wanting to go to sleep well at night. From both aspects. Discernment, people assume, is okay, I've read the Eightfold Noble Path or the Four Noble Truths or something good, now I have wisdom. No, wisdom does not work like that. If wisdom does not work, it's not wisdom. It's educational ego that you pick up. That does nothing for the path. So now, we might assume, now with all the troubles that we are all going through, the uncertainties of life, even if you're not facing much troubles, but even with the plain reason of not being able to plan ahead, travel where you want to, go and enjoy yourself with your family and friends. This situation that we find ourselves in, right? This situation that we find ourselves, what's going to happen to Sri Lanka within the next 3 months? Maybe this will all become an infernous burn and then we will all have to kill ourselves. Who knows? But there is a lot of uncertainty and the way that we deal with that uncertainty. But the thing is, we've been going through this uncertainty for the longest time. But it has not been as hardcore and in our face as it is now. The uncertainty that we face with illness, old age, death, the afterlife, all of these things have been rumbling insecurities in our life, right? What is going to happen next? This is a big question. With prajna, what happens is that question does not arise, not because you're like a vegetable who doesn't care, not because of that, but we develop a sense of resilience and strength to face it as it comes in the most direct and clean of ways. In the most direct and clean of ways. And now, in that experience, when we practice, if we are spiritual, if we want to work towards our spiritual development in whatever way, we always fight between two forces, that is lay life and spiritual life, or rather mundane life and spiritual life, right? It is always a tussle in a way. You're pulling and pushing. Do I do this? It's a tussle. We all know this. But the thing is, when it comes to the teaching, what we place importance in is very important. What do we place importance in? Yes, it's really good to have good things, nice things, shiny things, right? You enjoy these things. However, do I live my life for those shiny things? Is a question. What is it in my life that I place value and importance in? Prajna shifts importance and value that we place. It has to. It has to. Because regardless of all that we have done, regardless of all what the Buddha has done, regardless of all what the deities or all the good that some have done to walk this earth, they've all had to leave things behind. The fact is, when we take the Buddha as a bodhisattva, as a person who was working towards enlightenment, is a person who sat on Sakra's throne and ruled the divine realm, Sakra's divine realm, sharing half and half. The bodhisattva, a human being, experiencing pleasures of a god, literally, with a god. And yet, in the Buddha's mind, after a bit of time, he thought, my half is not enough. Let me fight Sakra and take his half. This happens to us every single day. You cut a deal, you get what you want. Now that deal is not enough. You want to cut a bigger deal, right? And in Colombo, we cut a lot of deals. It's never enough. But the thing is, when it's never enough, now other people suffer for it. Other people suffer for it. People who do not have the knowledge about it suffer for it. That is what happens. Now, this is where this knowledge of who comes in. The world that we live in, if we are unhappy with it, we have in some way or the other contributed to it. If we complain about corruption, we have somehow contributed to corruption, even getting out of party. We have. That's what happens when we live in at that time in that environment. And you can't say, I'm going to stop. Yes, a person will, if they have a lot of motivation, they can stop. They can recluse themselves into a corner. But how are you going to feed your family if you can't cut the deal? How are you going to cut the deal if you don't bribe them? These are questions that arise in a practitioner's mind. And these are very valiant questions. Because we live in a world of good, we live in a world of bad. But the question is, are we going to fight for this life? Or are we going to fight for samsara? That's the question. Are you going to sacrifice your morals your good values for 60 years or 70 years of good living? Or are you going to throw away the rest of your samsara for these 60 years? Or would you take up a practice where you now truly understand what is really important in your life? Children, I've just become an uncle. Right. I've just become an uncle. So I'm like seeing my brother who I used to fight and, who is just 2 years older than me, right? Now being excited about a child, and it's absolutely surreal, right? I can't even believe this is happening. I think most of all, I'm like become an adult, so I'm like nervous about it. But I can see in my brother, who's like a very playful character, all of a sudden, he's like, he wants to be a better person. He wants to do this and that and this and that, all of that. Children, family, friends. These people that we have in our life make our life worth living. The money that we have, the properties or whatever it is, we often would convince ourselves that we have these things to enjoy life with them. But all of a sudden, out of a sense of delusion, without us even knowing, it changes. Now we change into having friends to earn money. Friends become connections and contacts to earn money. So now, where is that sense of direction? That is why we can't arrive, or it's difficult to arrive at a state of mind, because our object is not clear. Our objective isn't clear as well. Why? It keeps on shifting and changing, so much so that I don't know why I'm doing all of this. That is where this presence of mind becomes something universally deserved by beings. Because without this, it becomes almost like a phase to just live. We just go through it habitually, twisting and turning behind and in between and over and under motives, but not with something clear. This position of mind is strong. It does not in any way tell you that you can't live one life to have this, but it means that you have so much more stability and presence in the life that you lead and live. In the life that you lead and live. That is why we meditate. And at the end of the day, it's not meditation that is important. It is what meditation cultivates that is important. It is the result of the meditation that we work for. Because like a monkey would jump from one branch to the other and not let go of one branch before he sees the other, we too let go of one clinging on to another. But the reality, the fact is, you don't have to be on the branch. You can just walk. There is earth. You don't have to cling on to something to attack, but this clinging gives us purpose in our life. We feel that this clinging gives us a sense, gives us something to wake up for every day in the morning. But the thing is, you don't need to do that. You don't need to have that sense of tanha to be able, because it is that same tanha that turns your life around. If we've had a relative, a close friend who's had cancer, we know how the moment the person gets the news from the doctor, how that whole entire person's life, family's life changes, just instantaneously changes. Why? Kaya raga. The attachment that we have to the body. As long as we have kaya raga, we will have a continuous supply of suffering. Because why? Kaya raga is motivated by maintaining the body at a state that you have in your mind. Because the mind, the ego comes from the mind. And it is in that connection that Kairaga exists. So something that I told my meditators yesterday was Ajahn Chah's most precious words. Ajahn Chah, you know Ajahn Chah. Ajahn Chah's most precious word, which is for a Buddha Putra, for a person who is son or daughter of the Buddha, as we would say it. For such a person, it is not the death of this body that matters. For that person, death, what truly matters is the death that comes, which ends samsara. So for a person who does not think about lifetime, but takes the whole entirety of life from the starting of motivation to attain Nibbana and the attainment of Nibbana, this is seen as one entire block. And let me tell you, I guarantee a person who thinks of life in such a block will never go to hell, will never fall into the woeful realms. Why? Because for such a person, the anxieties of the end of the 60, 80 years does not arise. Because of that person, the practice is continuous. The practice is worth it because you're not talking about 60 years anymore. You're talking about the start of your practice and the ending of your practice. For such a person, his metta exceeds more than your family or friends, because for that person, he knows that he will or she will or the person will be having many families, many friends, many relationships. But what matters is the practice, the metta. What is the practice? The metta, the karuna, the mudita, the upekha, the vipassana, the anicca, the dukkha, the anatma. All of those components become important. We do not realize, even from the start, from 9 o'clock to now, 9:40, 40 minutes have passed. Time is a measure of impermanence. Time is a measure of impermanence. But we now see time as time. It's time. We don't really see it as impermanence. That is the way moha works. Every moment with the arising and passing away, seeing this arising and passing away, enriches a being so much that now your biases for pleasure in this world changes. And it is very much possible. Because if you think about it, if with Corona, with the financial insecurities of the country, with the economic, all of that which is going on all around the world, are we going to wait until all of this is clear for us to be happy again? Are we going to wait up until everything in my entire life is perfect to be happy again? You can't, because Sri Lankans know best that every year we have something. So when something ends, we have mentally prepare ourselves for the other thing to come. It has been so for the past so many years. After the time that we received independence, it is said that we only had 10 years of peace in the country. We know as from experience that stability is something which can fade away really quickly. Are we going to depend on the stability of the outside world and even this body for our happiness? That is that question. That is what the Bodhisattvas saw. That is why it is important right now, right here, to develop the minds. Right here, right now, to make sacrifices, but these sacrifices are more investments rather than sacrifices, because what you are going to get in return for it, for yourself, is far more than what you're going to be sacrificing in comparison to what you're going to sacrifice. This is important. And this is beyond any religion. And I know if some of you, if you've listened to me, I always say, Buddhism is not a religion, and I know that sometimes it doesn't rub Sri Lankans quite that well, because Buddhism is, I believe, is truly a way of life. And the only reason I believe that is because the Buddha spoke directly to our attachments. If we are going to cling, we have clung for so long, and if we are going to continue to cling and now make something out of the Buddha's Dhamma to again cling, right? Again cling. How are we going to get out of this mess? How are we going to get out of samsara? Because as long as that clinging is there, where you hold on to a religion to say, I'm a proud Buddhist. What is there to be proud about being a Buddhist if you don't even protect the 5 precepts? If you don't protect the 5 precepts, you're not even a Buddha Putra. That is like point blank. You have to have that ability of protecting the sila, that commitment for it, without which, what are you fighting for? It doesn't make sense. When we make something so amazing in Dhamma, something with such amazingness to it, such precious Dhamma, into now something mundane, it just ruins it. It just ruins it. When, living in the UK and knowing how sort of people who are not Buddhist, looking at how we sort of worship and other rituals that we do, they're beautiful to do and they're lovely to organize and arrange. But know in your heart of hearts the difference between Buddhist culture and Buddhist philosophy. It is 2 different things. And sometimes the things that we do turn people off so much from such a precious practice because we instigate Buddhist culture rather than Buddhist philosophy. If Sri Lanka had Buddhist philosophy, would we have racism in this country? If Buddhism was there, would we be so inhuman to those minority communities, those who are not Buddhist, not Sri Lankan, not Kandyan Bodhidharma Buddhists? No. Where is Buddhism then? Where is the Buddhism? Would the Buddha say sadhu sadhu to this? No, it's ridiculous that Sri Lanka would call itself Buddhist and do all of these things. It is completely against and does not have a position, a true position in modern day society. But then we go to Western countries and we see people working against racism to build a society, a community which is together, which can unite regardless of the differences. So then which country is more Buddhist? These are questions of wisdom. These are questions of mind that we must ask ourselves. Because just as you deserve to be happy, the other person deserves to be happy. Regardless whether the person wears a pottu, wears a burqa, eats halal or does not eat halal. It does not matter. Every person deserves to be happy regardless of that person's faith, belief, or to where the person is born. And as Buddhists, we must have that sense of compassion. We must have that sense of compassion towards all beings, or it's not going to work. Because karma will follow you. Karma will follow you. And when you least expect, it will take its revenge. Revenge for what? Revenge for the evil, the imputred that you have put into the world. Through even smiling at a person making a snarkly comment about a person wearing burqa, or a person who is not Buddhist. There are people, my devotees, when their daughters, when their kids need men or girls to get married, they try to find people from, the UK, they try to find boys and girls here. Something that I say is don't get them married to people here. I honestly have told that. Don't get them married to people here. Why? not because of anything else. There is a strong sense of stigma for everything in this country. And when you are as open-minded, if you were born and raised, or if you were raised the majority of your life in the UK or in America, in cultures which are so much more open, and then you come here and your husband expects you to cook and make your tea in the morning, yes, could have worked 30, 40 years ago. It's not going to work now. Is not going to work now. My mother expects my sister-in-law to get up in the morning and make my brother's cup of tea. She said, it's not going to happen. She said it's not going to happen. So they're on a bumpy road. Right. There's a strong sense of stigma. This meditation that you would do today is going to inspire you in so many ways to go deep into yourself, to not depend on people to fulfill the cause of what you believe will make you happy, but to fulfill it from within. To stop depending on the outside world, but through awareness, to now cultivate a sense of happiness from within. That is what today's day is catered towards. And when you go away from, you might stay up until lunch, you might stay for the whole retreat. Wonderful. But the moment that you leave, remember that it is your responsibility. Your responsibility to make your little surrounding beautiful, your little surrounding accepting, your little surrounding full of metta. Do not in any way contribute to the vileness of society that we have. Always stand up. Do not use derogatory language to refer to persons. I'm not saying that people can do it, but I know that we come across enough of people who would do it. Do not smile and laugh and share and cheer with people who thrive on such hate, thrive with putting people down, thrive in speaking behind people's backs. We live in Colombo, we know how it goes down. Do not, because you know how much it hurts when a person speaks behind your back. Do not do it to one person. Karma comes behind you. Karma comes behind you. So when you leave, this is your conscious responsibility that you must take to make the world that we live in. We might not be able to, heal the financial chaos that we are in, but what we can do is have or put in a little bit of love into the world. A little bit of love to the places and the people that we work with and work in. That is your responsibility. And forget everything else. You might not be a meditator, but the Buddha says, rather than giving 1,000 dhanas, a moment of metta is far more mahatpalai mahanisansa. Isn't it? A moment of metta is so much more greater in fruit than 1,000 dhanas that you can give. As mothers, as parents, you know how powerful love is. The love that one gives to a child who has received love and a child who has not received love is two different people. We've seen enough examples, isn't it? You give love. That is what makes mother's love so special, because you give without taking back in a most pure sense. So special that the Buddha himself takes it as an example. In that same way, if a woman can have a child and muster the courage to share mother's love with a being, we are all capable. You all are mothers. Most of you all are mothers and fathers. Sorry, not discriminating. If you can do that, that means you have the ability in your heart to have that love towards people known and unknown. And that is absolutely crucial. It's absolutely crucial for ourselves, the places that we live in, and the future of Sri Lanka and the world. And the world. All right. So, do we need a break before we start meditating? Do you want to get up and move a bit? No? Are you sure? Okay. Yes. All right. So, we are going to be having back-to-back sessions happening. The tea break is at 10:30. The tea break is at 10:30. If you do want to go to the loo, please feel free to slowly walk out and go to the loo, use the facilities whenever you want to, right? I will be guiding the whole retreat, right? And it is important that you try to maintain noble silence whenever it is possible for noble silence throughout the retreat, right? And if you at times sometimes feel that you have pains or difficulties with sitting, feel free to change your posture. There are also cushions at the back that you can take. Change your posture to adjust, but do so slowly and with awareness and mindfulness, right? If you have your phones on, I would recommend that you consider putting your phones off and not looking at the phone for the duration of the retreat, right? And each and every session that has been put in is specifically catered to all of you, right? So it is an experience, right? It is not something, it is just general that is being done. It is an experience. So make sure that you contribute or commit yourself. I would love to see most of you all there, but I understand if it's a little bit too intense as well, right? So make your decision, but when you are going on with the proceedings of the retreat, do not speak, right? And try to keep silent. There is also the walking meditation area around the Bodhi, right? So you are free to go and use those facilities as well. And there is a time after the lunch break where the meditation would be outside, right? Outside. Anything else? Are you too cold or too hot? Yeah, if it's too cold, we can reduce. Too hot, we have nothing to do about it. Yeah, all right. So can you just get up, just stretch out and just sit back down? Make sure that you just move, shaking your hands a bit, get the blood flowing. Yeah. Before we sit down again for the meditation. Come on, don't be shy. Move your hands around a bit. Come on. Right. Yeah. All right. So when you're ready, you can sit down. All right. Can the people at the back hear me clearly? Am I loud enough? Louder. All right, everyone. Settle down. Please release your hands of your books, just keep it on the ground. Taking a deep breath in. Breathing out, gently settling into the present moment. Closing your eyes gently, gently. As you arrive fully into the present, taking a deep breath in, filling up the chest, holding on to the breath for a moment until you can't hold on to it any longer, feeling the stress building up all around the chest. When you can't hold it any longer, breathing out slowly, relaxing each and every fiber of your being. Taking another deep breath in. Holding on to the breath. Breathing out. Relax. 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 Relaxing the shoulder. Legs. Thigh. The facial muscles. As you guide your attention to the breath. You could observe the breath by watching over the expansion, the contraction of the lung, without any control or manipulation, without any need to change anything. Simply observe, observe. Observe. Allow the mind to put aside the past and future, to put aside anything that you have to get done through the day. And just arrive into the present moment. As you observe the breath, the movement, all around the lungs, the abdomen. Observe. Observe. If the mind wanders, gently bringing it back, using the breath as an anchor for the mind. Observe. Observe. So, with every passing moment, allow the mind to settle deeper and deeper to this present moment. Here, here and now. Any sounds that you might hear around you, let these sounds prompt you to go into a deeper state of relaxation. To a deeper state of presence. So, 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 be mindful of your posture. Back upright but not rigid. So, 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 Embrace the peace, the silence. Embrace the role of being and not doing. Although disturbances might arise, simply keep your object, observing the breath, observing, observing. Gently guide your attention now to observe the mind, that observes the state of the mind. Observe the peaceful mind. Connect to a mind that is settled, which is of the present. Just as you might experience peace at this moment, imagine all people around the world who do not have a moment of peace in their life. radiating thoughts of loving kindness. Warm vibrations of care and compassion, thoughts of well-being. Starting from within. Vibrating toward all the beings all around. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be well and happy. From this little gathering, radiating thoughts of loving kindness, the whole city, the country, allowing these vibrations to touch deeply their being, their minds, their body. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be well and happy. Well and happy. Well and happy. Well and happy. Gaining inspiration from the Buddha, from the symbols of love that you might know in your life. With that inspiration, allow the vibrations of loving kindness to grow. Without expecting anything in return, simply give, radiate. May all be well and happy. Be well and happy. Be well and happy. In those beings suffering in this world because of greed, hatred, delusion. Illness, poverty, uncertainty, family issues, addiction, may any being in this world suffering in silence or open, may they all be touched by this loving kindness that I share. May all be well and happy. 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 Gently, gently. Guiding your attention back to the breath. As you take a deep breath in, filling up the chest, arriving fully into the present moment. Allow yourself to come into a state of awareness, one-pointed. As you observe the breath, the motion of the breath, without any needs or wants, simply be aware. Be aware. Be aware. Embrace the state of mind that is closest to being empty. A state of mind not hindered by the hindrances. There's nothing to go look for. Simply just be in this moment. Just be. Just be. Just be. Feel deep, deep sense of profound stillness and liberation from all and any issues that you may have in your life. Simply by coming into this present moment, being in this present moment. Connecting to the present. Simply, simply. Just be. Just be. Just be. Take a deep breath in, breathing out, relax. Deeper and deeper, relax. Take another deep breath in, letting go of the breath, relax. Taking another deep breath in, breathing out, relax. Making a mental note of your experience as you gently, when you are ready, open your eyes and awake into the present. Sa, sa, sa. All right. So we will be going into our tea break, but we have about 4 minutes left. So a couple of pointers. When you are meditating, make sure that you do not open your eyes during your meditation. 1. If you are itching or scratching anywhere, do not itch or scratch. 2. If you are a person who during meditation experiences pain, wonderful. Do not be fearful of the pain. Something that I always mention is without pain, you will not develop. Pain is a necessary friend in meditation. What do you do when pain arises? Tightness around the buttock area, shoulders. When it arises, it will arise, isn't it? You probably had it today as well, right now. What do? Watch, observe. And when you observe, watch closely whether or how you're getting entangled with sensation. Do you understand? The entangling is what we refer as tanha. Right. Now, when a sensation arises, after sensation comes tanha, isn't it? Parijsampada. Right? Vedana pachaya upada. Right? Vedana pachaya tanha. Tanha pachaya upada. When Vedana pachaya tanha comes about, the experiencing of Vedana can be done so in two ways. Right? Can be done so in two ways. Vedana before tanha and Vedana after tanha. Do you understand? A sensation is categorized into three, or according to Abhidhamma, 5. Right? Let's take the 3 for ease of comprehension, which is somanasa, domanasa, upekha. Somanasa is pleasure, domanasa is pain, and upekha is equanimity. Right? Neither pleasure nor pain. Now, these are the definitions of sensation, isn't it? This is how we would define sensation. What is sensation? There are 3 types of sensation. Somanasa, domanasa, upekha, or somanasa, sukha, domanasa, dukkha, upekha. Right? This is a definition. This is how we learn it, isn't it? However, for the definition to come about, how would you define a sensation? Defining a sensation and sensation is different, right? In experience, sensation is the moment or the position of experience that you have. When we go on to from the experience, the definition of the experience, now tanha has arisen. The craving has already begun. The meditator's duty or the meditator's objective is to rather focus on, is to rather focus upon the sensation before the tanha. Because the tanha gives a definition that we do not require. It is in the moment of presence, then the experience is seen as a whole rather than the tanha now defining the experience. Do you understand? Now the pain or the pleasure is comprehensible, incomprehensible, likable, not likable. Those definitions come at the moment of tanha. Because for the definition to arise in the mind, that is impossible without the tanha attribute. Now we have gone beyond Vedana to Vedana Patya Tanha. We must try to remain at the position of Vedana, not Tanha. Do you understand? Right? So when you experience a scratch, an itch, wonderful, pain, wonderful, because these give you the opportunity to truly stretch out and experience a higher pain threshold. And the moment that you are able to let go of the pain, which you can, when you mentally let go of the pain, it's no longer painful. It disappears. When you come into that position, or that position can be arrived at only with pain. So don't be afraid of the pain. Embrace the pain. Embrace the pain in a way that the Buddha embraced all the pains before he attained enlightenment. Come what may, I will not get up from my seat up until I attain enlightenment. Right? So come what may. Do not be afraid, because I know when you look at the schedule, it looks a bit strenuous. I made it that way, I'm sorry. I made it that way, I'm sorry. But when you go through it, come what may, allow yourself to embrace it. And try to come into a position where you now can observe before reacting. Observe before reacting. Because when the observation arises sati, when it arises as a reinforced consciousness with the three ketus, alobha, dosa, amoha, now that pervades through the consciousness stream. Now the experience becomes something which every experience you get closer to a sense of mind that is more progressively leading towards happiness. A few pointers there. We are going into our tea break. Do not talk. Try to avoid, have you enjoy your food or whatever which is available. Right? I'll see you at 11. Okay. Yes. Yes. All right. Tea break, everyone. Go make yourself a cup of tea. All right. Let us start our second practice of meditation for the day. So this practice, the second practice is going to be the Atmanskara Bhavana, which is the contemplation of the four different elements of the body. So the four different elements, the meditation on the four different elements is aimed at recognizing the mechanisms that are present within the body, which allow the body to exist, and through the body existing, the mind coexisting with the body. The kaya raga that we spoke about, the attachment to the body, is based on the idea that within this body exists Atma, which is self, exists a sense of perseverance of the mind and the body. But the Atmanskara Bhavana refutes that idea entirely by showing us that the body is just a collection of elements working together, and by working together, we are in this moment attacking the concept of kaya raga and brings us into a position of viraga over the body, which is disengagement or disattachment from the body. Not in a way that we would sort of take disattachment usually, but in a way that we would not be clinging to the body as a source of happiness or dependence over the body for our happiness. So this is then what the Atmanskara Bhavana is. The dhatus are divided into four: Patavi, Apo, Tejo, and Vayu, which is earth, fire, wind, and water and wind. So in order to sort of observe the dhatus, what we do is, when we take earth, the element of hardness, softness, tactile motion, We observe the earth element within the body through the existence of the organs, the skin, anything and everything that displays that element of earth, meaning hardness or softness. When we take water, we engage with the organs, the parts of the body, which has the water element within it. For example, blood, mucus, pus, fat, urine, these elements of the body. When we take fire, we take the element of warmth and temperature within the body, which allows the body to exist and to mature as we do, because maturation is also a part of the fire element. And then when we come into Vayu, wind, we take the motion aspect of the body, the cohesion, sorry, not cohesion, motion aspect of the body, which gives the body the ability to be malleable and flexible and have movement within the body. Even with the blinking of one's eyes, the movement of one's eyelids and the movements of one's eyes, or the motion of the hands and the legs and the feet in walking, sitting, standing, all of these postures. That is the display of the Vayu element. What we observe is, even if you don't go in different parts, just take one. If we are in, let's say, hardness, you could take the hair, or you could take the skin. Take one if you can't do many. If it's water element, take the blood or the urine or the fat or the pus or whatever it is that you want to take, whatever it is that you can identify with easily, right? If you want to take the fire element, you can take the warmth around your chest that you might feel as your shirts or blouses touching against the skin. If you want to take the bio element, you could take the pulsating beat of the heart, right? Not in any way to control. Remember, there is no control. Do not try to control, especially if you're observing your heart or your lungs. You must not control, right? It is not control, it is awareness, sati. And this awareness is being able to observe without judgment, right? Without that sense of judgment. So in your mind, that internal dialogue which finds that it's his or her responsibility to always judge and make comparisons and to give an account, a report, minute to minute about everything, don't listen to that. Right? Be with the experience. Be with the experience. If the experience moves up or down, just be with it. Just ride the wave in a way, right? Without giving importance to the conclusions, right? That might come about. Do you understand? Right? Wonderful. Let us now get into it. Taking a deep breath in, sitting comfortably. Taking a deep breath in, filling up the chest, closing your eyes. Holding on to the breath for a moment, arriving fully into the present. Deep breath in again. Hold on to the breath until you can't hold on to it any longer. Feeling the building up of stress as you hold on to something that you should be holding on to in the first place. And the restful peace that comes about as you let go of the breath, relaxing deeper and deeper. Let every fiber of the mind and body relax deeper and deeper. Just let everything go. Put aside anything that you have to get done, anything that you haven't been able to do because you've been procrastinating, whatever those burdens are, put all of that aside. We have all been doing. Let this moment be a time of being. whatever happens, just be in this moment. Recognize that at a position of being, the relaxation that comes to the mind. Feel a great sense of peace as the mind comes into a state of stillness, tranquility, guiding your attention to observe the sensation all across the body. Observe the sensations. Observe. 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 If there is so much happening in your mind, relax the muscles of the body. And as the muscles relax, bit by bit, empty the mind. Simply just come into the present without judgment. Just be. As you gently observe sensation. All around the head, the face. Observe sensation. Observe. 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 Gently moving your attention from the face, the head, to the body area, torso. Observe the rising and the passing away of the sensations all across the body. Chest, the abdomen. Around the stomach to the back, up the spine, over the shoulders, back to the chest, down to the abdomen, around to the spine, up the spine, over the shoulders. Observe, observe. Do not be attached in any way. Simply just observe the arising, passing away, the arising, passing away. Rising, passing away. sensations in continuous motion of change. So, so, so. Practice the art of observing without blinking. Gently guiding your attention from the torso of the body down to the thighs, the legs, the feet. Observing the sensations all around. So, so, so. So, every passing moment, letting go a little bit more, acquiring the skill of observing without attachment. The more that you let go, the more sensations you will freely be able to observe. 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 From the lower body, we guiding your attention to the whole body. Observing the sensations all across the body. All across the body. All across the body. Gently arriving guiding your undivided attention to the present. As you gently guide your attention to the earth element, the earth element, found all across the body. Observe, observe, observe. Observe the nature of the earth element. Anything that is hard and solid, the representation of the earth element, manifested by the essence of earth. Observe, observe, observe. Observe, being aware of your posture. Gently guide your attention from earth to the water element. Anything that is watery found within the body. Bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, tears, oil, mucus, oil of the joints and urine, the different components of the water element found within the body. Go deep into these parts of the body to observe the nature of the water element. Observe. 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 Gently, gently. Guiding your attention from the water element to the fire element. The fire element that keeps the body warm. The fire element that causes aging. The fire element that comes into passing with fever. Fire element that digests your food. Observe the nature of the fire on all across the body. All across the body. Observe. 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 Gently, gently. Guiding your attention from fire to the water found across the body. Breathing deep in the air in outside of the bowel. The winds that pours through the limbs being the belly. Observe. 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 Gently, gently. Observe. Gently. Guiding your attention to the sensations of the body as you observe deeper. So, so. Relaxing the muscles all over. As you gently practice the skill that you do as you observe. Sitting tall like a great mountain. Inspired by the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Finding balance in the practice. The mind may want to at times throw in the towel, but inspire, awaken the energy from within. Allowing the practice to flow with balance. Coming into a state of samadhi, concentration, sharing the energy of the community, sitting here. Sharing in all the spiritual energy of the world. Let us observe. 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 The rising, falling away of mind and matter every moment. Every moment. Inspired by the great yogis of the world. Arousing a sense, a profound sense of movement. Connecting to all the sacrifices made by the Bodhisattva. Let us instill ourselves in a state of tranquility and calm. Overcoming laziness and drowsiness. Simply observe. 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 That's profoundly with the mind and observing the mind. Understand the defilements present in this moment. hindering the flow of energy, hindering progress. Is it lust? The lust for comfort, the lust for sensual objects? Is it anger? Anger towards pain all around the body. The anger towards decisions made in the past. Is it delusion? What is it in your mind that is keeping you from peace? From seeing reality as it is? Gently, gently. Gently. Observe sensations. Going deeper and deeper with every moment. Taking a deep breath in, filling up the chest. Holding on to the breath before slowly, gently, relaxing, relaxing, emptying the lungs. Taking another deep breath in, gently, relaxing, letting go, emptying, emptying. Breathing in again. Letting go very gently, gently, gently. When you are sa, sa, sa. So how is your meditation? Some of you are meeting after years, actually, isn't it? About 3 years. So how is the meditation feel? See, meditation, it's not the most easiest practice because it's a lot to do with balance. It really is a lot of balance. And we have to balance our faith. We have to balance our, which we say, Shraddha. We have to balance Sati, Samadhi, Virya, and Prajna. Right? It is when these 5 come into a position of balance in the mind that we can establish a state of Samadhi. To balance this is like, this is somewhat like the chakras that we speak about, right? Or might have heard. This balance, when we take Shraddha first, Shraddha, we speak about Shraddha in many ways, from a cultural aspect as well as a religious, spiritual aspect. But this sense of Shraddha is the commitment, the belief, the trust that we have within the path of practice. That we have within the path of practice. It is not in any way blind. It is not in any way ill-informed. It is informed and very much an aspect of an open eye. Watching, observing, watching, and seeing how things sort of go on. That aspect that keeps you committed to that state of mind is what we refer to as Shraddha. Right? What we refer to as Shraddha. When we go across, the Anapanasati Sutra, we find the first part of the sutra, the Buddha relates an occasion where all the biggest celebrity monks of the time have come together, right? And we are talking about Venerable Sariputta, Moggallana, Anuruddha, Mahanama, all the big sort of respected echelons of Theravada Buddhism at the time. It's not even Theravada Buddhism at the time. Right? The Buddha's disciples all coming together, and the Buddha preaches this Anapanasati Sutra, which is the sutra which explains the practice of Anapana, breathing in and breathing out, meditation. Right? And you find within this sutra, the first bit of the intro, it's relating. The Buddha is saying that these monks are committed. And they explain a visual, they draw a visual of how these the most senior 10 or 15 monks are in the monastery. And with these 10 or 15 monks, you have smaller groups of younger monks training under these senior monks, and they are in different groups, right? So you can picture that sort of gathering, how that gathering is like. And the Buddha says specifically in the sutra, the monks are committed to the practice of anicca bhavana, the practice of asubha bhavana, the practice of metta bhavana, the practice of anatma sanya, the practice of neva sanya, na sanyayata, the practice of all these different practices. But at no position does it say the monks dwell in the practice of Shraddha towards the Buddha. That it's not there, right? Now, this is Anapanasati Sutra, which is the most powerful technique of meditation in Theravada Buddhism, right? And the Shraddha, the commitment that the Buddha is speaking about, is in no way related to the Buddha. It's related to the practice. The practice is resembled in our life from a sense of feeling, right? From a sense of feeling. Now, when the person would go to Bodh Gaya, or the yogis of Rishikesh or Badrinath, Kedarnath, right? And you go into these caves of practice, some caves so powerful and sort of bathing in the volitions and vibrations of ancient yogis. The moment that you enter into the cave, your mind just goes empty. So powerful, so profound. Even you all have been to Bodh Gaya, I presume. When you go into Bodh Gaya and you are standing or sitting under that tree, that vibration that you feel, it's crowded, it's always crowded. It's always crowded, but the sense of silence and isolation that you feel, that feel is Shabda. Do you get what I mean? That feel extends far beyond the fruits and the flowers and the vegetables or whatever it is that one would offer to the Buddha or the deities. That sense of feel is very, very profound, beautiful, and life-changing. That Shraddha, that blanket almost of vibration, changes the way that we interact with ourselves, the outside world, that Shraddha. Because that essence, that feel, brings change, isn't it? When you're in the presence of a spiritual being and you feel the vibrations of that being emanating through that being's body, when you feel the love of that being through that being's smile, you change. You change. That is the essence of Shraddha. Connecting to that is an issue. Because as long as the hindrances are riled up within you, even the most powerful, the most eminent of rare spiritual beings seem like beings who are not for you. Didn't that happen to the Buddha himself? Right? Didn't that happen to the Buddha himself? It did. You can be you can be in the presence of the most powerful beings and yet not get anything from them. Why? You are as thick as it gets. Thick from what? The hindrances. Respecting the hindrances. Worshipping at the feet of the goddesses of hindrances. So, in a way, not at all sort of committing to the goodness of a person or calibrating with the goodness of the world, but running behind the hindrances. Shraddha is something that brings in, sweeps in this cooling sensation all across the mind and the body, and this changes a person. When Shraddha rises, it creates a sense of confidence. And with that confidence in the teaching, the practice, there arises a position of sati, awareness. Now, sati is something which is present. Sati is something which is present in each and every mind. It's there. Without sati, we are unable to recognize or note what is happening. Without sati, we are unable to take an object. You can't hear me without sati, right? Sati is present. So that is no issue. What must then be, or what we must then do to sati is we must balance it with the others. The sati has to come into a position of balance where it is now feeding off or is mutually existing, coexisting with the other powers. Now the sati changes. Where now when the sati is present, it is like sprinkling holy water into your mind. The hindrances just run away. Like taking holy water into a devil's den and sprinkling it all around. It just runs away. It's like purifying water, right? It just runs away. That is then now that power, that element of sati in the mind. Sati improves whatever it is. It improves upon it and brings a sense of clarity in every way. Then comes virya, effort. When we take effort, we often find ourselves existing upon a spectrum. This spectrum can only be balanced out when we have the supporting aspects of Shraddha, Sati, Virya, Samadhi, and Prajna when working together. The effort is something that is somewhat difficult in a certain way because it's difficult to catch hold of what is the right amount of effort, what is too much, what is too little. Right? What is too much, what is too little. Now, some might imagine, it's difficult to do this as a mundane human being living a mundane life. What about Vishaka? How many children did she have? I mean, she was making babies again and again. I mean, she was not stopping, right? And she was an enlightened being. Vishaka, right? Vishaka wore that ornamented garment from the top of her body, top of her head, all the way to the tip of her toes, sprawled in diamonds and gems and gold and silver to a temple. And she was enlightened. So now what about us? Right? Why do we imagine that? Because you see, that is what religion does. Religion has to be exalted. When without that sense of exaltation, people won't respect. But in the process of exaltation, what happens is Dhamma becomes far from us normal poor beings. So we find it very difficult to connect to that. We find it unusual and supramundane to have a sense of love in an unconditional manner. Why? Because it's exalted all of a sudden. Relating and feeling these parts of mind is an important aspect of connecting with your practice. Connecting with your practice. Not for anything else. Not for anything else, but to achieve a state of balance in your mind. Right? To achieve a state of balance in your mind. And without this balance, whatever it is in your life that you do, you might do something thinking, this is going to make me happy. If I had this, I'm going to be happy. I think we are all testament enough to the fact that that doesn't work. You will want, you will get. As Ariana Grande says, isn't it? However, you will want more afterwards. Even if it's love, even if it is material wealth, you get love, you want more love. You get more love, you want more love. It's like a baby pump. It's like a never-ending, it just sucks the energy out of you. That is the way the world is. Without that sense of balance, it's very difficult for us to reach a state where we are okay. To reach a state where we say, okay, this is enough. I've had my share. To let go gracefully. When you are invited over for dinner or lunch to a guest, to a person's house, and you're serving yourself, there is a point where you must put the spoon down, unfortunately. If you don't, you're not going to get invited again. That is a time that you gracefully bow out. It is a must. And you leave the rest for the rest. Without that, we become we become very, very, will be looked at in a very odd way. That sense of balance to come, bring the mind to a state of being, to not be challenged by the hindrance that comes about with this balance that we look for. To go into that balance, love the Buddha, if you're Buddhist, love the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha to resonate with you. Right? It's useless if the Buddha is too exalted beyond your sort of esteem of catching on. A love, how does the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha relate to me? What are the aspects of the Buddha, Dhamma, the qualities of the Buddha, Dhamma, the Sangha that relates with me? Even if it comes to not being Buddhist, but being of whatever, if it's a Muslim, the Sufi traditions, if it is a Hindu, the powerful traditions of meditation in Brahmanism with Vishnu and Krishna and all of these eminent sort of deities and the meditation practice that is there, the yogic tradition, powerful, right? If it's the Catholicism, the Seven Sisters, and that's the powerful doctrine, they are connecting with God. In every way you find, we might not want to hear it, but we find an exalted, an elaboration of connection to a higher mental self, right? Are we able to connect to that? Right? Are we able to connect to that? Connecting to the vibrations found within a room is possible. Can we do it? To do that, our mentalities need to resonate in the same way, right? When people chant, now, for example, you might have seen, sort of in the Sufi traditions, when chanting is done, there is a sense of movement with the chants. And within this process happens a process known as synchrony, where the mental energy frame and the heart rate synchronizes with everyone around you, right? Tapping into the vibration, the connection of the people now sharing that experience. What are we connecting with? The Buddha said, this journey cannot be walked alone. When Ananda said, Bhante Bhagava, I think Kalyana Mitras are important. The Buddha corrected Ananda and said, Ananda, Kalyana Mitras are not just important, they are the path itself. Why? Because these people, that connection is what motivates you to go deeper, to let go, to synchronize, to connect with that energy, without which we fail, we'll stumble, we'll fall, and there's no one who's going to motivate us to collect ourselves back up and stand. So that sense of having Kalyana Mitras is important. But when our mental vibrations are of a negative sort, a toxic sort, you don't find Kalyana Mitras. It's a very sort of awing fact, isn't it? You don't find Kalyana Mitras if you're not a good person. People who can be Kalyana Mitras also become bad if we are not good at heart. But when we finally give in to reality, to accept things as they are, not by the fact of not doing anything about it, but by the fact of not fighting reality, not trying to convince yourself that it is night when it is day, not trying to convince yourself that things will be different when it won't, or when the things are the way it is at that moment. When you connect to that, you will find a reason to have compassionate behavior. When you connect to the sickness within you, when you connect to the hate within you, when you connect to the lust within you, you know how difficult it is. You know how difficult it is to not display hate when you are red with it. When you know how difficult it is with lust into wanting. It might be food, it might be cars, it might be houses, it might be sex, whatever it is. wanting, 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 how to say no. When you connect to that difficulty, you have the ability to be compassionate over people who violated the world with hate, with lust. Because at the end of the day, who are we to judge when we are so flawed ourselves? So flawed ourselves. We keep on trying to become things that we just won't. And we find that in Colombo, we find that everywhere. People trying to be a part, become something that they never won't. Or they can't, trying to pretend again and again and again. And in the process, losing the respect that one has for oneself. We've seen it all too many times. All too many times. We see it every night if we go out in club. People pretending to be pious, people pretending to come from something, people pretending not to be parvenus. Whatever it is, this sense of pretense, it's okay, pretend. But the thing is, pretending has a cost, and it costs a lot. It costs a lot. It will cost you your family. It'll cost you good friends. And most importantly, it'll cost you the authenticity that you have in your life. So much so that people brainwash themselves to believe a reality far from true reality. They start believing in their own lives. They start believing it. It's crazy. The beauty of self, meaning this mind and body, is something that needs to be resonated and in a way understood by yourself. For that, one of the greatest barriers that we find is ego. Is ego. We all have it, you and I. Ego. We all have it. But just because we have it, you and I, doesn't mean that it's okay. Just because you and I have it doesn't mean that we need it. The ego will arise. The ego will give you a dialogue, a conclusion to everything that arises. But the trick here, the skill here is understanding that that's ego. And that's what we try to do. And when you start off in meditation, most people experience it very difficult when starting off before it becomes a pattern. Because now, apart from the fight that you have with everything else outside of you, now you start fighting with yourself. You start fighting with yourself, your ego, because the ego doesn't want to be subdued. That is where this connecting to the power of the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, connecting to the powerful sources of energy found in the universe as hubs and collective areas. When I was traveling through sort of northern, the Himalayan region, these caves, these big places all around with Rishikesh and above, so powerful. And you would be surprised at these collective balls of energy, so much so that your mind it's just almost like disappears. And you're just there. And everything that you were worried with, are you hungry, your hunger, your pains, your sweat, all of that just disappeared. And 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years after these yogis, they say they might be living, they say that they have died, we don't know. But regardless, 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 years after their peak sort of attainment time, still the vibration so powerful, so powerful, so powerful that I can't put it into words. That is the power of your mind. That is the power of balance. That is the power of all the energy that you can tap into. Should you drop one thing, ego. Now taking that onto my right palm, let's take on to the other side what you have with ego. Now what's more attractive? What's more attractive? Right? With ego, what do you find? An endless series of problems and issues and things to deal with and things to forgive and trying to forgive for the whole entirety of your life. Oh my gosh. You know, how is it attractive in the first place? It seems so obvious that we must drop it. Connect to yourself. Connect to that beauty. We have so much of it. We truly have so much of it. You and I are still working for it, but that working progress is important. You will and I will fall again and again and again and again and again, but it's important to know that I will fall, but I'm going to get myself up. I will fail, yet I am going to get myself up. You will find enough examples, scandal after scandal, to tell you why spirituality is broken. The media will speak about it, you know, it will be on the newspapers. We are all very used to it, you know. You're all very used to it, you know. But the thing is, that cannot be a representation of the beauty of the mind, the beauty of the potential of the beauty that can be present when you close your eyes and when you achieve a state of one-pointedness. No one can say no to that. When you have balance in your life, no one can say, no, it's not possible. It is possible. People can do whatever they want. People can have all the opinions that they want. If you care too much what your drivers think, what your domestics think, you will not be able to live your life, right? These people around you, they will judge and they will judge hard. What you need to be committed to is your happiness in a way that it is sustainable and in a way that you are progressively working into a higher state of mind. Higher state of mind. Why I say higher state of mind is when the mind is operating in a sense of mundane, with a sense of mundane nature within it, it will always be tempted by the mundane. When it is tempted by the mundane, things of the world will always drag you in. Will always drag you in. But when the mind is fixated upon something which is higher, it will drag you, but now it drags you up, not down. Mundane drags you down. That is why even having Shraddha towards the Buddha or any spiritual figure in your life, that sense of Shraddha, if the person is above you in a sense of higher consciousness, that Shraddha pulls you up. And that is what we need, to be pulled up. Remember, the Buddha did not live an impoverished life. The Buddha, as the Buddha, was looked after like a king. He had the best of silks, the best of woods, the best of abodes made for him by the kings and the courtesans and all these people who were his devotees, supporters, right? But that was not what was important. So don't you think you need to sell your work? You don't have to. What you need to stop then doing is thinking that the work is going to make you happy. The work will make you comfortable. It will definitely not make you happy. It will definitely not make you happy. So what is the importance that we place in the things that we have? Higher consciousness. a consciousness not tainted by foul hindrances, things that we cannot speak about in society, things that we would be ashamed of to tell another person after committing it, not maintaining a mind that is high. And when that is, let me promise you, your whole universe changes around you. You start attracting the divine. You start attracting the blessing. You start attracting everything that is good, that supports you. Maybe that you need support or not, yet you will have it. Why? Because your mind attracts all of that good. Attracts all of that good. Right? Sometimes I think about, when we see beggars on the road and beggars sleeping on roads, I think about, if I was unable to sort of put myself up, I could think of 100 ways maybe to not sleep on the road. But the beggar, he can't. I mean, he could literally walk into a spiritual establishment, tell the head monk or the priest, I will do the sweeping, just let me sleep here and give me food, please. I will take care of the cleaning, and he will be off the road. But the beggar is unable to come into that state of mind. He thinks he must lie, he must cheat, he must beg, or he must collect rice packets and sell them in order to put himself up or whatever it is. You see, that stained mind. That is what happens when delusion reeks. When delusion operates so fiercely in your mind. That is what happens. That is the mundane grab. That is what the Buddha warned us against. If you let an inch in, it will take the whole space. So whilst you enjoy all of the things that you do, remember, do not cling on to those things. Cling on to something greater, something beyond what you think you are deserving of, a higher state of mind. A higher state of mind. Connect. If you are a Hindu, connect with Krishna. If you are a Buddhist, connect with people that enlightened beings. Sariputta. If you are like Sariputta, connect with Sariputta. If you are like Mahamoggallana, connect with Mahamoggallana. If you are like Mahanama, connect with him. If you, whatever it is, connect with someone. You find children in Sri Lanka. We have a drug pandemic going on. I don't know whether you don't know. If you don't know, you are living under a rock. All our kids are on meth in Sri Lanka. Kids are going to school on meth. Kids are doing their exams with meth. There's a huge drug issue in Sri Lanka. Kids, people can't feel anymore. They feel they're like hollow vessels, working. We must feel. We must never assume that Buddhism has anything to do with getting rid of feeling. We must feel. But that feeling should be coming experience from a proper, wholesome state of mind. And wholesome state of mind. And that is what this practice is for. It is far greater than Bodhi Pujas. It is far greater. I went to Kalnia recently, and then saw people doing all of these things. The rituals. It's a very calm place. People do rituals. Yes, I'm being a drama queen maybe. And saying all of that. But the thing is, it infuriates me in a certain way, because I'm thinking in my mind, my gosh, people. I was a Catholic. I became a Buddhist. I have so much of gratitude for the Dhamma in Buddhism because it's so strong. And what the hell are you doing? Carrying a mutti and walking around a tree? Asking for this and that. It is absolutely ridiculous. We are the most intelligent beings on the planet and we are doing this. And we have one of the most strongest. The word sati in Buddhism is worth 4.7 billion US dollars in the West. The word sati, just sati, MBSR, MBCT, 30 odd years of research, .B syllabuses, MB, all of the mindfulness-based programs, all based on one singular word, sati, 4.7 billion US dollars. And what are we doing? Carrying pots around a tree. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous because we have such a strong spiritual tradition and we waste it. We waste it on these sensual pleasures that we want to experience, get rid of this problem, get rid of this problem. You know, Poon Young, Set Kavi, Bas Kavi, all of these nonsense that our culture, you know, that people do. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I get, you know, Dialogue now has an option where these Poon Young people can now apply for advertising and they give you a call to your phone and advertise their services. You know, the aspect to which we have been engulfed by ideas that we can go into these regions, it is absolutely disgusting. Connect with the mind, connect with yourself. Connect with higher consciousness. You are often, you know, we do so much to live happily, but we live so poorly. We have so much, but yet we have so little. Live rich. Live with that wealth of power in your mind. Not just to have the means of disposable income, but also the wealth of mind, energy, power. These things are very true and very reasonable asks that you could ask yourself to develop. And you should never cut yourself short in that way, especially when we have such a strong tradition of Buddhist meditational practice in the world. So motivate yourself to come off now ati pinkankara. You know, I mean, yeah. All of those things that you do for people, do for rituals, it doesn't even benefit people. Do for ritualistic purposes. Enough. You've done one cut, you know, enough. Now come, do something for people, of course, help people, help the poor, you know, but come into meditation. Come into that commitment of connecting to that practice within, the development of the wholesome kusala mind. Developing that skill within. That is something that Sri Lanka truly needs. Because we see when we go to Burma, people meditate. When we go to Thailand, people meditate. India doesn't have much Buddhism, but when you come to Sri Lanka, the country which gave Buddhism out to all these other countries afterwards, you know, after India lost it, we are carrying pots around. You know, this is something to truly be to contemplate, because we have this ability of cultivation, and I hope that will be a motivation on you to do what you have to do to cultivate that should be cultivated. All right. So after lunch, we will be going into, yes. So I'll see you after lunch. So 12:30 to 1:30. Yeah. So enjoy your lunch, right? And try to sort of maintain silence whenever possible. Okay. All right. Rice and curry is waiting. I'm sorry, UK people, you will have to have sandwiches. All right. I'll see you in an hour.